I never saw what the FBI wrote about me while I was alive, but when the file was finally released, it was 361 pages long. Interviews, clippings, rumors, accusations from people who knew me. And then the last page, a memo bearing J Edgar Hoover's name. One line that ends the whole story. Do not contact this man without prior authorization. How do you make the FBI stop digging into you? I'll tell you. It started with a letter. January 1955. I was a professor at Caltech, living my quiet life, teaching students, working on physics problems that made me happy. Then one morning, an envelope arrived from Moscow. The Soviet Academy of Sciences was inviting me to a prestigious physics conference, all expenses paid, a chance to meet the greatest scientific minds behind the Iron Curtain. I held that letter in my hands for a long time. You have to understand what 1955 felt like. The Cold War wasn't some abstract political concept. It was real. It was in the air you breathed. People built bomb shelters in their backyards. Children practiced hiding under their desks. Neighbors reported neighbors for saying the wrong thing at a dinner party. And scientists who knew about nuclear weapons, we were watched very, very carefully. Just a few years earlier, Klaus Fuchs, a physicist I had worked alongside at Los Alamos, had been exposed as a Soviet spy. He had been feeding them secrets the whole time. The Rosenberg case was all over the newspapers. Everyone was looking for the next traitor. And I had helped build the atomic bomb. I knew how it worked. I knew the yields. I knew details that, in the wrong hands, could change the balance of power in the world. And now the Soviet Union was sending me a personal invitation to come visit. So I did what any loyal American would do. I wrote to the State Department immediately. That same week, I told them about the invitation. I asked for guidance. I even offered to decline if they thought it was best, or to go and serve American interests if they preferred. I was trying to be a good citizen. I was trying to do the right thing. I waited for a response, and waited, and waited. 2 months. Nothing. No letter. No phone call. No guidance whatsoever. Complete silence. But here's the thing. While the State Department was ignoring me, the FBI already knew about the invitation. How did they find out? FBI agents had been digging through the trash of Soviet Ambassador Georgy Zarubin's office in Washington as part of their surveillance. Buried in Ambassador Zarubin's garbage, they found a discarded draft of my invitation letter. This was before I had told anyone, before I had even decided what to do. They already knew. If you're finding this story valuable, consider subscribing. I tell stories about the moments that shape the greatest minds in physics, the moments they don't teach you in textbooks. Suddenly, Richard Feynman was a person of interest. The FBI opened a full investigation. Agents started interviewing everyone I knew. My colleagues at Caltech, my friends from Cornell, people from Los Alamos I had not spoken to in years, my neighbors, my former students, anyone who might have something to say. They would show up unannounced, flash their badges, sit down in living rooms and offices, and ask questions about my loyalty, my politics, my beliefs, my habits. Did he ever say anything suspicious? Does he have communist sympathies? Has he ever criticized the government? What does he do in his spare time? Who are his friends? Most of them said the same thing. Feynman is brilliant, and Feynman is loyal. Feynman loves this country. He is exactly the kind of person you want working for America. But not everyone was kind. One day, a letter arrived at FBI headquarters. 9 pages, single-spaced, typed carefully, addressed directly to J Edgar Hoover. Anonymous. The writer called me a master of deception, an enemy of America, someone dangerous. 9 pages of hatred, 9 pages of accusations, sent directly to the most powerful law enforcement official in the country. The letter mentioned things only someone close to me would know. Personal details, private moments, specific incidents that a stranger could not have known about. Someone who knew me had decided to destroy me. To this day, The FBI has never revealed who wrote it. The name remains redacted, blacked out, hidden. But whoever it was, they knew me well enough to hate me personally. In America in the 1950s, a letter like that could end a career. It did not matter if it was true. The accusation was enough. Once the suspicion was planted, it never fully went away. The FBI added the letter to my file. They kept investigating. They kept asking questions. Meanwhile, I was still waiting for the State Department to tell me what to do about Moscow. Finally, after 2 months of silence, I sent another letter. I was frustrated. I was angry. I wrote that it struck me that prompt replies to requests might make it easier for citizens to act in such a way as to protect the department from unnecessary embarrassment. I was telling them I tried to help. I tried to do this the right way, and you ignored me. That finally got their attention. A few days later, a response arrived from Walter Stoessel at the State Department. Brief, cold, bureaucratic. We urge you to decline the invitation. No explanation. No thank you for asking. No acknowledgement that I had tried to do the right thing from the very beginning. Just 4 words. We urge you to decline. So I declined. I told the press that I thought attending might help science, but that there was an unwarranted risk, and that I did not think the American people would want someone who worked on the atomic bomb visiting Russia. I was gracious in public. I was diplomatic. But the government had ignored me for 2 months, surveilled me without my knowledge, collected accusations from anonymous sources, and then treated me like a suspect when all I had done was receive a letter I never asked for. The Soviet drama faded from the newspapers, but the FBI did not stop. For 3 more years, they kept tabs on me. They interviewed more colleagues. They noted who I talked to at conferences. They added report after report, page after page to my growing file. 300 pages became 350. Then, in 1958, something changed. The White House was considering me for a position as scientific advisor to President Eisenhower. This was the highest level of science policy in America. A seat at the table where the future of research, technology, and the space race would be decided, but it required a thorough background check, the most thorough yet, and that meant the FBI had to dig deeper than ever before. More interviews, more questions, more agents knocking on doors, asking about my character, my loyalty, my fitness to serve my country. People who barely remembered me were being asked if I was trustworthy. And that's when I did something unexpected. I told them to stop showing up at doors and interviewing people, and I asked to be placed on their do not contact list. I was done being treated like a suspect. I was done being polite while bureaucrats and agents controlled my life. I was done playing their game, and I pulled the only card I had. I helped build the atomic bomb. I was at Los Alamos when I was 24 years old. I calculated the explosive yields that told us whether the bomb would work. I worked alongside Oppenheimer and Beth and Fermi, the greatest physicists of the century. I watched the Trinity test with my own eyes. Everyone else was wearing dark goggles or looking away. But I understood the physics. I knew that a truck windshield would block the ultraviolet rays. So I watched through the windshield instead of dark goggles. The brightest light in human history, and I understood exactly what it meant. I had given everything to this country. I had helped bring the war to a close. I had kept every secret I was ever trusted with, and now they were treating me like a criminal because someone in Moscow sent me a letter I did not ask for. I told them to leave me alone. I told them I had nothing to hide. I told them that if they had real questions, they could ask me directly, face to face. But this constant suspicion, this endless investigation, had to stop. And then something remarkable happened. J Edgar Hoover, the man who had files on everyone, who had destroyed careers with a whisper, who answered to almost no one in America, authorized a memo to his agents. Richard Feynman was not to be contacted without prior authorization. The investigation stopped. The file closed. 361 pages and then silence. I never got the position as scientific advisor. Maybe the anonymous letter killed my chances. Maybe they decided I was too much trouble. I never found out, and after a while, I stopped caring. That was not the point. The FBI spent years trying to find something wrong with me. They interviewed dozens of people. They collected every rumor and accusation they could find. They had that 9-page letter calling me dangerous, an enemy. And in the end, they found nothing, because there was nothing to find. I was just a physicist who loved solving puzzles, who picked locks at Los Alamos because I was bored and wanted to prove their security was lousy, who played bongo drums at parties because it made people laugh, who happened to receive a letter from Moscow that I never asked for. The FBI thought I was dangerous because I did not follow rules I thought were stupid, because I questioned authority, because I refused to be intimidated by men in suits. But that is not dangerous. That is just being a scientist. That is just being free. Some people think you need power to fight power. Lawyers, political connections, friends in high places. I fought them with one thing: the truth. I told them who I was. I told them what I believed. I told them I had nothing to hide. And eventually, even J Edgar Hoover had to admit there was nothing there. My file is 361 pages of the FBI discovering that Richard Feynman is exactly who he says he is: a loyal American, a brilliant physicist, a man who helped his country and never betrayed it. That is not a scandal. That is a compliment. I was Richard Feynman. I helped build the bomb that helped bring the war to a close. I won the Nobel Prize. I taught a generation of physicists how to think. And in 1958, I asked the FBI to place me on their Do Not Contact list. And they did. If this story resonated with you, subscribe and join me for the next one.